Most people spend their lives trying to be liked. They answer every message immediately. They say yes to every invitation. They help everyone who asks. They explain themselves too much. They try to prove their value constantly, and without realizing it, they become something dangerous. Free. Free attention. Free attention. Free time. Free emotional labor. Free validation. At first, people appreciate this, but slowly, something changes. Respect fades, because in human psychology, value is rarely attached to what is always available. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology existed. He observed rulers, nobles, merchants, soldiers, people who controlled influence. And he noticed a pattern. The individuals who held the most power were not the most generous with their availability. They were the most selective, not cruel, not distant, but measured. They understood something simple that most people ignore. Scarcity creates value. When something is rare, people protect it. When something is abundant, people ignore it. You can see this principle everywhere. Gold is valuable because it is scarce. Attention is valuable because it is limited. Time is valuable because it cannot be replaced. But strangely, people treat their own time and attention as if it has no value at all. They distribute it freely. They give it away to anyone who demands it. And then they wonder why they feel overlooked, why their presence feels ordinary, why their absence changes nothing. But Machiavelli would say the problem is not the world. The problem is positioning. If people believe they can access you anytime, they stop appreciating your presence. If people believe you will always say yes, your yes becomes meaningless. If people believe you will always forgive, your boundaries disappear. Being constantly available does not make you respected. It makes you predictable, and predictability without authority becomes weakness. Now consider something deeper. People often confuse kindness with accessibility. They believe that being constantly available proves they are a good person. But kindness does not require unlimited access. Kindness requires intention. When your attention is intentional, it becomes valuable. When it is automatic, it becomes invisible. Think about the people who command the most respect in any environment. Leaders, experts, influential individuals. Their time is structured. Their availability is limited. Not because they want to feel superior, because they understand the economics of attention. Attention must be protected. The moment you allow everyone unlimited access to your time, your value drops, not morally. Psychologically, humans naturally assign higher importance to what feels difficult to obtain. This is why prestigious universities are selective, why luxury brands limit supply, why influential people protect their time. The same principle applies to your personal presence. If everyone can access you easily, your presence feels ordinary. But if access requires respect, alignment, or effort, your presence becomes meaningful. Now let us explore a mistake many people make. They think being expensive means arrogance, but that is not what Machiavelli meant. Being expensive means being deliberate. It means your time has structure, your attention has purpose, your energy is not distributed randomly. You choose carefully where to invest it. This mindset changes how people perceive you. When your availability decreases, curiosity increases. People begin to notice your absence. They begin to wonder where your attention has gone. And curiosity creates value. But if you are everywhere, all the time, with everyone, your presence becomes background noise. Background noise is rarely respected. Now consider the emotional side of this principle. When you give too much emotional energy to others, something happens. You create imbalance. If one person invests heavily while the other invests casually, the dynamic shifts. The one who invests more emotionally becomes dependent on the connection. The one who invests less becomes comfortable. Comfort without challenge reduces appreciation. This is why many people feel undervalued in relationships, not because they lack value, because they oversupplied it. Too much availability destroys tension, and tension is essential for respect. Machiavelli believed that power often lies in controlling access. The ruler who allows everyone into the palace loses authority. The ruler who controls access increases his importance. The same is true in modern life. If anyone can reach you instantly, influence over your attention increases. But if your time is structured, people must approach you with intention. Intention creates respect. Now imagine two individuals. One answers every call immediately, responds to every message instantly, agrees to every request, always adjusts their schedule for others. The second person responds thoughtfully, protects their schedule, declines requests that conflict with priorities, and invests time selectively. Which person appears more valuable? Almost always the second, because selectiveness signals purpose. Purpose signals direction, and direction commands respect. But this does not mean becoming distant or unfriendly. It means understanding the value of your presence. Your time is finite. Your energy is limited. Your attention is powerful. When you give these resources away without consideration, people begin to treat them as if they cost nothing, and things that cost nothing are rarely respected. The goal is not to be unavailable. The goal is to be intentional. Intentional attention feels valuable. Automatic attention feels cheap. This is the first step in becoming expensive. You must recognize that your presence is an asset that should be invested wisely, not distributed carelessly. Once you understand this, the way you interact with the world begins to change. You stop chasing approval. You stop over-explaining. You stop saying yes to everything. And slowly, something interesting happens. People begin to treat your time differently. Not because you demanded respect, because you demonstrated value. And value, when protected, becomes powerful. Once you understand that unlimited availability reduces your value, the next question becomes obvious. Why does scarcity increase respect? The answer lies deep in human psychology. People instinctively value what is limited. When something is rare, the mind treats it as important. When something is abundant, the mind treats it as ordinary. This principle governs everything from economics to relationships. Machiavelli observed it constantly in courts, politics, and power structures. Those who were always available to everyone were respected the least. Those who controlled access to themselves were treated with caution and importance, because access itself became valuable. Think about how attention works. If someone messages you constantly throughout the day, their words begin to feel routine. But if someone rarely speaks and only appears when necessary, people listen carefully. Scarcity sharpens attention. Abundance dulls it. Now apply this to your life. If you are constantly present in every conversation, every situation, every request, people become accustomed to you. You become part of the environment rather than someone who shapes it. But when your presence is selective, something changes. People notice when you appear. They listen when you speak. They respect when you invest your time, because your attention is no longer automatic. It is chosen. This difference may seem subtle, but it changes how people perceive your importance. Now let us explore something Machiavelli understood clearly. Influence is often determined by access. The person who controls access to resources controls power. In politics, that resource might be information. In business, it might be opportunity. In social dynamics, it is attention. Your attention is one of the most powerful currencies you possess. It determines where your energy goes, where your ideas grow, where your relationships develop. But most people treat their attention carelessly. They give it to anyone who demands it. They respond instantly to distractions. They prioritize other people's urgency over their own priorities. And slowly, their influence diminishes. Because people who control nothing, not even their own time, rarely control outcomes. Scarcity restores control. When your attention is structured, people begin to treat it differently. They approach you more thoughtfully. They respect your schedule. They recognize that your time is not unlimited, and recognition creates respect. Now consider another aspect of scarcity. Mystery. When someone is always explaining themselves, always available, always present, nothing about them feels intriguing. Everything is known. Everything is predictable. But when someone reveals themselves gradually, curiosity grows. Curiosity creates interest. Interest creates attraction. This is why the most influential individuals rarely reveal everything about themselves immediately. They allow people to discover them over time, not through secrecy, but through pacing. Pacing creates intrigue. Intrigue creates attention. Now let us discuss a mistake many people make when they try to become less available. They become cold, distant, unresponsive. But this approach often backfires, because scarcity without warmth feels like arrogance. The goal is not emotional distance. The goal is selective investment. You remain kind. You remain respectful. But your time is intentional. Your attention is deliberate. When you speak with someone, you are fully present. but you do not remain endlessly accessible. This balance creates a powerful perception. People experience your attention as meaningful, not routine. Now imagine two scenarios. In the first scenario, someone can reach you at any moment. They know you will respond immediately. They know you will adjust your plans. They know your schedule revolves around availability. Over time, they stop appreciating your effort because effort has become normal. In the second scenario, your time is structured. You respond thoughtfully. You decline requests when necessary. You invest time where it matters. In this situation, people notice your presence differently. They know that when you give attention, it is intentional, and intentional attention feels valuable. This shift changes how relationships develop. People invest more effort when access is not guaranteed. They communicate more carefully. They appreciate your time because they understand it has limits. Scarcity creates appreciation. Now let us look at another Machiavellian insight. Respect often follows restraint. People who speak constantly are rarely taken seriously, but those who speak selectively command attention. This principle applies to communication as well. If you comment on everything, your voice blends into the noise. If you speak when it matters, your words carry weight. Restraint increases impact. Now think about the long-term effect of this mindset. You become someone whose presence changes the environment, not because you dominate every interaction, but because you appear with intention. Your contributions feel meaningful, your absence becomes noticeable, and that combination creates influence. But perhaps the most important effect is internal. When you stop giving your time freely, you begin to value it yourself. You become more aware of where your energy goes. You invest in activities that build your future. You protect the moments that matter. This internal respect for your own time changes everything, because the way you treat your time teaches others how to treat it as well. If you treat your time as disposable, others will do the same. If you treat your time as valuable, others will adjust accordingly. And slowly, without demanding anything, you become more respected, more influential, more expensive, because your presence is no longer free. It is intentional, and intentional presence is one of the most powerful signals of value a person can project. Most people believe that opportunity comes from saying yes. Yes to requests. Yes to invitations. Yes to favors. Yes to conversations. They think the more agreeable they are, the more people will appreciate them. But Machiavelli observed something different. People who say yes to everything slowly lose authority because constant agreement signals something subtle. It signals that your time has no hierarchy. It signals that your priorities are flexible for anyone. And when your priorities are flexible for everyone, people assume they are not important at all. Now consider the psychology behind this. When someone hears the word no, it forces them to reassess the situation. They realize that access to you is not automatic. They realize your time has limits. And limits create value. But when someone hears yes every time, they stop evaluating the request because the answer has already been predicted. Predictability reduces respect. This is why influential individuals guard the word yes carefully. They use it selectively, not because they enjoy rejecting people, but because agreement must remain meaningful. When you say yes to everything, your yes loses its weight. When you say yes rarely, it becomes significant. Now think about the social dynamic of agreement. People often say yes because they fear disappointing others. They worry about appearing rude. They worry about damaging relationships. But Machiavelli understood that constant accommodation creates imbalance. If you adjust your priorities for everyone else, your own direction becomes invisible, and direction is essential for authority. People respect individuals who have clear priorities because priorities signal purpose. Purpose signals strength. Strength creates influence. Now let us examine another reason people struggle to say no. They seek approval. Approval feels safe. It feels reassuring. But approval-seeking behavior makes a person predictable, and predictability invites exploitation. If someone knows you will agree simply to maintain harmony, they will continue asking. More favors, more time, more energy, until eventually you feel drained, and resentment grows silently. But resentment is not the fault of those who ask. It is the result of failing to protect your own boundaries. Now imagine two individuals. The first says yes to every request. People rely on them constantly. But eventually their contributions become expected rather than appreciated. Their effort becomes normal. Their time becomes taken for granted. The second individual chooses carefully. They decline requests that conflict with their priorities. They invest their time selectively. They help when it matters. And because their help is not constant, it is noticed. Which individual receives more respect? Almost always the second. Because selectiveness signals value. Now consider how saying no changes perception. When someone declines a request calmly and confidently, they communicate something powerful. They communicate that their time is organized, their goals are structured, their attention is directed. These signals create authority, not through aggression, through discipline. But there is an important detail here. The way you say no matters. If you say no defensively, people sense discomfort. If you say no confidently, people accept it more easily. Confidence removes tension from the situation. A calm response such as, "I won't be able to do that," or "My schedule is full right now," is often enough. No long explanations, no apologies, just clarity. This clarity reinforces boundaries, and boundaries create respect. Now let us explore another Machiavellian observation. The more available someone appears, the less their presence is valued. But the more selective someone becomes, the more their attention feels important. This does not mean becoming unreachable. It means maintaining control over your access. Access is a form of influence. Those who control it shape the environment around them. Now think about the leaders you respect most. Do they respond instantly to every demand? Do they say yes to every request? Or do they protect their time carefully? The answer is almost always the second. Because leadership requires focus. Focus requires boundaries. Boundaries require the ability to say no. This principle applies to personal life as well. When you protect your time, people begin to approach you differently. They become more thoughtful with their requests. They respect your schedule. They recognize that your attention is limited, and that recognition increases your influence. Now let us address something deeper. Saying no is not only about protecting time, it is about protecting identity. Every yes shapes the direction of your life. If you say yes to everything, your life becomes shaped by other people's priorities. But when you say no strategically, you preserve your own path. And people respect those who walk their own path. Because independence commands admiration. Finally, consider the long-term effect of this mindset. When you become comfortable saying no, something changes internally. You stop seeking approval through agreement. You stop fearing rejection. You stop compromising your priorities to avoid discomfort. Instead, you become someone who chooses deliberately. And deliberate individuals carry psychological weight. People listen when they speak. People respect when they invest time. People notice when they appear. Because their presence is not guaranteed, it is chosen. And chosen presence always feels more valuable than constant availability. This is the true meaning of being expensive. Not arrogance, not distance, but intention. Your time becomes meaningful because it is not given freely. Your attention becomes powerful because it is directed carefully. And your presence becomes respected because it is never automatic. There is a rule that quietly governs influence in almost every environment. The person who controls access controls value. Machiavelli saw this principle everywhere. In royal courts, in political alliances, in negotiations. Those who allowed unlimited access to themselves lost authority. Those who controlled access increased their importance because access itself became valuable. Now think about how this principle appears in modern life. If someone can call you anytime, message you anytime, interrupt you anytime, your presence becomes ordinary. People stop preparing before approaching you. They stop respecting your time. They assume you will always be available. But when access is limited, something changes. People become intentional. They choose their words carefully. They respect your time more because they know your attention is not automatic. This is not manipulation. It is psychology. Human beings naturally assign greater importance to what feels difficult to obtain. If your time is constantly available, it becomes invisible. If your time is structured, it becomes valuable. Now consider another effect of controlled access. Mystery. When someone reveals everything about themselves immediately, there is nothing left to discover. But when someone reveals themselves gradually, curiosity grows. Curiosity creates attention. Attention creates influence. Machiavelli understood that mystery strengthens perception. A ruler who appeared everywhere, explaining everything, lost authority. But a ruler who appeared strategically, speaking carefully, maintained intrigue. People wondered about them. They discussed them. They watched them closely. Mystery created presence. This principle applies to individuals as well. If you are always explaining yourself, always present in every conversation, always reacting to every message, your presence loses weight. But when you move with intention, people begin to notice something different. You are not everywhere. You appear when necessary. You speak when it matters. You listen more than you talk. This selectiveness creates psychological gravity. People lean toward individuals who appear grounded and deliberate. Now let us examine another aspect of access: attention. Attention is one of the most powerful currencies in modern life. Where your attention goes, your influence follows. But most people treat their attention casually. They give it to every distraction, every notification, every conversation that demands immediate response. And slowly their focus disappears. Machiavelli believed that attention must be disciplined because undisciplined attention weakens authority. If you respond instantly to every interruption, people begin to expect it. If you protect your focus, people begin to respect it. This difference shapes perception. Imagine two individuals again. The first checks messages constantly, interrupts their work repeatedly, responds instantly to everyone. Their attention is fragmented. Their presence feels scattered. The second individual protects their attention. They respond thoughtfully. They prioritize meaningful interactions. Their attention feels concentrated. Which person appears more influential? The one whose attention is deliberate, because deliberate attention signals purpose. Purpose signals direction. Direction commands respect. Now consider how access shapes relationships. If someone can reach you emotionally whenever they wish, they begin to rely on that accessibility. But if your emotional energy is selective, they value it differently. When you listen, they feel heard. When you respond, they feel acknowledged. Because those moments are intentional. Intentional interaction creates depth. Constant interaction often creates fatigue. This is why some relationships feel draining. Not because of the people involved, because there are no boundaries around attention. Boundaries protect emotional energy, and emotional energy determines how much influence you carry. Now let us return to the idea of being expensive. Being expensive does not mean rejecting people. It means protecting your resources, your time, your attention, your energy. These resources are limited. And when something limited is distributed carelessly, it loses value. But when it is invested intentionally, its value grows. Think of your presence like an investment. You do not invest everywhere. You choose carefully. You look for alignment, respect, purpose. When these elements exist, your attention becomes powerful because it is not routine. It is meaningful. Now imagine how people begin to perceive you when you live this way. You are not rushing to respond. You are not explaining every decision. You are not adjusting your priorities for every request. Instead, you move calmly, deliberately. Your actions communicate something important. Your life has direction, and people instinctively respect direction. Because direction creates certainty. Certainty creates confidence. Confidence creates authority. Now here is something interesting. The moment you stop chasing attention, attention often begins chasing you. Because when someone withdraws from the noise and focuses on their path, people become curious. Curiosity pulls them closer. This is not a strategy of isolation. It is a strategy of focus. When you focus on your priorities, your presence becomes more concentrated. And concentrated presence creates influence. Finally, consider the internal transformation that occurs when you protect your access. You become calmer, more focused, more deliberate. You stop reacting to every demand. You stop scattering your energy. Instead, you invest it where it matters most. And when energy is invested wisely, results follow. Respect follows. Influence follows. Because people sense that your presence is not cheap. It is valuable. Not because you demanded value, because you protected it. This is the essence of Machiavelli's lesson. Do not make yourself free. Make your presence meaningful. Because what is meaningful will always be respected, and what is respected will always carry influence. There is a final shift that transforms how the world treats you. It is the moment you stop trying to be accepted everywhere. Most people move through life hoping to be liked. They try to avoid conflict. They try to satisfy everyone. They try to appear agreeable in every situation. But Machiavelli understood that universal approval is impossible, and more importantly, it is unnecessary. The pursuit of approval often destroys authority, because when someone tries to please everyone, they lose their identity. They become flexible in every direction. Their opinions change depending on the audience. Their boundaries disappear, and slowly, people stop taking them seriously. Not because they dislike them, because they cannot predict what they truly stand for. Authority comes from clarity. Clarity comes from conviction. And conviction requires the willingness to disappoint some people. This is why the most respected individuals rarely try to satisfy everyone. They protect their principles. They protect their principles. They protect their priorities. And they accept that disagreement